Welcome in, everybody. I'm Reed Cowan. What a weekend it was and what a Monday it is. Let's talk about the weekend, a political earthquake, President Joe Biden leaving the race for the White House. And on a Monday, it's the aftershocks that we look at from our live video feeds. Plus, lawmakers grill on the Hill. They have a lot of questions for the Secret Service director. This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go. Okay, right off the top, our video feeds take us to Ohio, where Republican vice presidential nominee Senator J.D. Vance goes home. He is going to his hometown for a rally. This is the very same place that he wrote about in his critically acclaimed memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. By the way, this is the first time that Republicans can take some swipes against the news that happened from the Democrats over the weekend. Joe Biden out of the race, and it looks like Kamala Harris is raising a lot of money to be the nominee. That's not happened yet, but as soon as J.D. Vance takes to the stage and grabs that microphone, we will bring it to you live on the stream. We're also awaiting something President Joe Biden promised over the weekend, and that is this, an address to the nation. He and Democrats are in a very intense game of beat the clock. Keep in mind, Election Day, just 105 days away. And as of now, the Democrats do not have an official party nominee. So for his part, Joe Biden, he wants Kamala Harris to be at the top of the ticket. In fact, our video monitors just got this video a moment ago of Kamala Harris, the vice president in Washington, D.C. There at that event, she is celebrating the NCAA championship teams. Listen.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states, and back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president.
So our CBS team's also chasing down conversations that happened on the sidelines over the weekend. You might have heard mention that Senator Joe Manchin was getting a few headlines. He's of West Virginia, and there was talk that perhaps he wanted to challenge Kamala Harris for president. He cleared that up on CBS Mornings. Listen to his thoughts.
I'm not running. I am not running for office. I could not believe that there was not going to be a primary process or a mini process. Other countries do it. I'm not looking I don't need that as far as in my life.
All right, so that is from Senator Manchin. Right now, we can tell you the vice president is quickly lining up endorsements from major figures across her party. CBS News' Weijia Jiang is live in Delaware. We understand Harris will be there a little bit later today for a campaign event. So really what this is going to come down to is money and delegates. Talk to us about the massive amount of money we heard about over the weekend raised for Kamala Harris.
Reed, even before that, this comes down to whether anyone else is going to challenge Harris, because even though she is the assumed presumptive nominee for now, she hasn't clinched the nomination yet because the delegates, including those that all voted for Joe Biden, have not given her their vote. And legally, they can vote for anybody. But, you know, it looks like she is going to be able to do that. But you are right. Even before that happens, she is already bringing in the big bucks. As of 5:30 this morning, campaign officials tell us that with grassroots donations alone, it was about $50 million, and that's just since President Biden endorsed her. So that is a lot of money, Reed, and money talks, right? In fact, it was one of the main reasons why Biden ultimately decided to step down, because his money had been drying up, especially from some major donors who really were applying pressure on the campaign to find another nominee. So that is incredibly endorsement. And as you mentioned, so are these big ticket endorsements from others in the party, mainly because some of the people that we are hearing from are people who were viewed as potential challengers who might have wanted to toss their hat into the ring to be the nominee. So now that they've come out and they have formally endorsed Harris, they're essentially saying they're not going to challenge her. And by the way, I'm here for a VP pick if you're interested. And so there's still a lot of big decisions from the vice president, but she will be coming here to campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware this afternoon. We expect her to address the staffers here, and we are told that everybody on the Biden team right now, it was the Biden-Harris team, they were told from the campaign manager and the campaign chair that everyone still has a job and that they're just proceeding as they were, except the nominee, they say, is now the vice president.
So, Ouija, question for you on the point of the VP pick, should she become the nominee for her party. There are really two strategies that I can see she could take. Number one, she could await that the delegates actually name her their candidate, the one to go in the race up against Donald Trump. Or two, she could hint very clearly to the American public that she has chosen these three names, almost as a testing ground. What do you see could happen as far as the pick for a vice president?
Well, I think you're exactly right. And remember, this is a vice president who was so careful, Reed, not to even entertain or suggest that she might be the presumptive nominee when there was all this speculation about whether Biden was going to step down, because she didn't want to seem as though she were trying to push him out of the way in any capacity. And so, you know, she's just now publicly embracing the fact that she is, you know, likely going to be on the ticket, let alone addressing questions about who she might pick to stand by her side. But you're right. I think it matters so much because the big question I'm hearing from Democratic sources and donors is who can fill that big gaping void that Joe Biden is going to leave behind on the ticket? Who can appeal to moderate voters? Who can try to get those swing state voters to vote for their ticket instead of Republicans? And when, you know, you drill down on it, there aren't that many people. So in terms of shortlist, it is an interesting strategy to get the names out there as quickly as possible to see how the public responds. But there is a problem. You know, some of these people are not known at all on the national stage. And so they're going to need time to ramp up that energy and support and make sure there is name recognition because as of right now, you know, when it comes to Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina, Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, these aren't necessarily household names. And there was one, by the way, Reed, who was very well known, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, and she has already said publicly that if she were asked to run as VP, she would decline because she says she's not leaving Michigan. And so it is really fascinating how quickly everything is developing, but certainly that is one major question that could really have an impact, Reed, who she decides to take along with her on this very wild ride that she's going on.
Wild ride and a masterclass for all of us in political strategy. Ouija Jiang, thank you so much for that live report. Hey, CBS News correspondent Ed O'Keefe is live in Delaware. Ed, remember that old song, What a Difference a Day Makes? It's almost like we could change the words a little bit, What a Difference the Weekend Makes. Where you are, tell us about what you're hearing about the president's schedule and his health.
Well, there's another song, Rainy Days and Mondays always get you down, right, Reed? It is a little rainy. And it is a Monday here in Rehoboth Beach where the president remains at his home as he recovers from COVID-19 and recovers from letting the world know he's not running for re-election anymore. The White House has called what they say in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue language a lid, which means we're not expected to see him the rest of today. And we're waiting word on if he's taken any other calls or held any other meetings with aides on a variety of issues. Over the weekend, it was things like talking to the head of the European Commission, getting updates on some other foreign matters, and then suddenly dropping this unexpected announcement that he's not running for re-election. We know the decision was made Saturday night alongside the First Lady and just 4 other trusted aides who have been with him through much of the last 20, if not 30 years of his public life. He informed the vice president Sunday morning and a handful of other senior aides just moments before tweeting it out. The fact that the vice president now is headed to his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, to take control of that campaign is a sign of how quickly things are moving. But for now, at least, the president still here in Delaware, expected to address the nation later this week, but we don't exactly know when.
All right, rainy days and Mondays. We are glad you are there because we are raining politics today on a Monday. Thank you so much, Ed O'Keefe, for that live report. You know, even though Kamala Harris is not yet her party's nominee for president, former President Donald Trump seems to think that she will be. In fact, he says he doesn't think it changes the race at all if he instead faces Harris this November. But when news broke out, and this is interesting to look at, Trump quickly went on social media claiming it was unfair to the Republican Party to have to face a new opponent, and he mocked Joe Biden's mental fitness. In fact, look at this. Trump posting on Truth Social, and these are his words. The Democrats picked a candidate, crooked Joe Biden. He loses the debate badly, then panics and makes mistake after mistake, is told he can't win, and decide they will pick another candidate, probably Harris. They stole the race from Biden after he won it in the primaries. A first, exclamation point there. These people, he goes on to say, are the real threat to democracy. So Donald Trump feeling a whole bunch of emotions today and putting it out there on Truth Social. Our video feeds and monitors also take us to another big story coming out of Washington, D.C. We're at Capitol Hill, where congressional members are grilling Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle after a would-be assassin's bullet grazed the ear of former President Trump at his Pennsylvania rally. Let's also not forget that 3 American citizens took bullets, too. One of them died in the line of fire. So the headline from this hearing, Director Cheadle admits failure and says it won't happen again. Listen.
The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again. Let me state unequivocally, nothing I have said should be interpreted to place blame for this failure on our federal, state, or local law enforcement partners who supported the Secret Service in Butler. We could not do our job without them.
Nobody better to tell this story and serve this story than CBS's Scott MacFarlane live on Capitol Hill. Scott, you heard that testimony. We've also heard in recent days high-ranking Republicans calling for her to step down. Set the scene for us.
Unrelenting questions for the Secret Service director. There is no safe harbor politically or otherwise for her in this room because it's both Democrats and Republicans asking questions they believe are not getting answered. The calls for her resignation have now spread to Democrats. Ro Khanna of California, during the hearing, said Kimberly Cheadle should step down from her position because of the magnitude of the failure last Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. There have been these granular questions about what went wrong. How did a shooter with an automatic weapon get on a roof so close to where the former president was speaking? How, if that shooter was initially deemed suspicious between 2 and 5 times by the Secret Service, wasn't he successfully corralled? And how was the former president allowed on that stage at the podium when there was somebody deemed suspicious nearby? All these questions about timelines, who's been fired, these have been asked, and Director Cheadle has answered some of them, but not all of them. Let's talk about people being fired or resigning. She acknowledged during this hearing nobody has been fired so far, and that accountability is potentially going to drift to her. We expect more calls for a resignation as this day continues during a marathon hearing about a historic moment last Saturday.
Ultimately, the buck stops with her. It will be fascinating to see what happens by the end of this day. We know you'll have it. Scott MacFarlane, it's good to see you today. Hey, while Kimberly Cheadle answers questions in Washington, other lawmakers are touring the scene of that crime where the assassination attempt happened. Our video monitors will take us there when we come back. I'll watch them. All right, welcome back. We've got video of the site where former President Donald Trump's assassination attempt happened, and top lawmakers are there today. They toured the grounds. They wanted to see where it happened as they try to get answers to how it happened. Listen.
What happened here last week was unacceptable. The Secret Service has one primary mission, to protect our elected officials, and they failed. This was a failure in planning, a failure in execution, and a failure in leadership. We've learned since the shooting occurred that President Trump's security detail repeatedly requested additional resources which were denied. Those lack of resources required Secret Service to depend more heavily on local law enforcement. And we know that the Secret Service failed to secure a strategic location with a direct line of sight to where the president was speaking. In light of these failures, I join many other members of Congress in calling for the resignation of Director Cheatham. She must resign immediately for the good of the country and for the good of the department that she serves, the Secret Service.
I was on the roof that the director said it was really dangerous for Secret Service and other personnel to be on. I'm 70 years old. There's nothing unsafe about that roof, and so. I'm going to be calling for her resignation, too. To actually come up with an excuse like that, she should do better than that. So a lot of questions, but there are things here that are obvious failure of Secret Service. And I put it on Secret Service because they're responsible not only for the inner perimeter, but also advising and telling and directing all the other agencies exactly what it is they need to do in order to secure the scene.
All right, so while Kimberly Cheadle is grilled on Capitol Hill, they are there calling for her resignation where it happened. Hey, we're taking you right now to Middletown, Ohio. Our video feed showing that right there. This is the hometown of Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance, and it will be his first solo rally and the first time he's been on a big stage with a big microphone since the Republican National Convention. And you see there, people are inside that building, and they are waiting to hear from who is their hometown boy, J.D. Vance. And once he takes to that stage, of course, we want to know what he has to say about the news of President Joe Biden leaving the race to the White House, word that Kamala Harris has been able to be a part of raising tens of millions of dollars since that announcement, and we will bring that to you live. We also anticipate at any minute our monitors will be able to catch the body camera video released as evidence today in the killing of a black woman by an Illinois deputy. So let's get you caught up with that story. Go back to July 6th. Deputies responded to Sonia Massey's 911 call about a possible prowler at her Springfield home. Here's prosecutors' case against that deputy. They allege when he got to Massey's house, Deputy Sean Grayson, quote, aggressively yelled at Massey, told her to put down some water she was holding. Well, Massey put her hands in the air and then apologized, ducked for cover, only to be shot in the face. Worse, prosecutors say Deputy Grayson discouraged another deputy on the scene from retrieving his medical kit. Massey, who, by the way, was the one who called police for help in the first place, died. Deputy Grayson is currently in custody without bond, charged with murder. Well, our video feeds also bring an update in a high-profile murder trial that went down in flames. Remember that Karen Reed trial? We've talked about it in recent weeks. She was accused of running down her police officer boyfriend with her SUV. Well, we've got an update on that trial today. After a mistrial, prosecutors are now pushing to retry the case. Both sides will meet today, and as soon as we have those developments, you will see it right here on the stream. So if you are traveling this week, listen up. The after effects continue for airlines after last week's worldwide computer outage and disaster for so many flights. In fact, hundreds had to be canceled after that update with Microsoft Windows operating system issued by the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike just failed. So as airlines continue to recover from the after effects, check with your airline. And once again, we tell you, expect delays. They're just not as bad as they were in the last several days. Let's jump the map to Oregon now and look at this fire. This is a debris fire. It's burning very close to Ross Island. That's near Portland, Oregon. In fact, you can see that toxic black smoke rising there on the banks of the Willamette River Sunday afternoon. And listen, that is what it looks like when junk burns. It is dark, it is thick. In fact, they're fighting this not only on the ground, but getting water from boats right there. We're talking about piles of tires and petroleum products and other junk right now on fire. Viewer Alexis Emerson says they're sick of it. It's just time to get away from all the smoke.
I can definitely start to smell the burnt rubber versus the burnt trees. Yeah, it's kind of why we turned around, because it was getting worse and worse. I'm like, we probably shouldn't be breathing this in.
Probably shouldn't. Well, look at this. Our video monitors caught an army of firefighters hitting this from the ground from along that water line. They're, in fact, using a lot of water fire boats, which is unique to waterways in that part of the country. Also wanted to show you this. It's a dry part of the year, and Utah is no exception. This is from the state of Utah, where a wildfire caused a lot of people to have to run. And also, if you've been to Utah, it's right up there in the hills by the state capitol overlooking Salt Lake City. This one broke out over the weekend. Firefighters said they had to act fast. In fact, they used helicopters and airplanes, more than 100 firefighters down on the ground to protect some of Utah's most historic homes in that area. High heat and strong winds made a recipe for a quickly burning fire. And so let's bring in Jess, because it is that time of year when we have that perfect recipe, heat and fire.
Heat and fire, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, the National Weather Service has issued many advisories when it comes to that heat. You can see that highlighted on our map, specifically over in the southwest, along that California coastline, up into Oregon, and of course, we're also keeping a very close eye on Montana, too. All these advisories, it's important to note, are continuing to show an abundance of heat as we head into the next coming days. So taking a look at our daytime highs today, tomorrow, lasting into the next couple days, we are well above average. Anywhere from Montana, where today we're talking about 80s and 90s in the forecast, and we're only going to warm up more as we head into the coming days. Now let's take a look right behind me real fast. This is our excessive heat risk map, and it shows, as we just turn the page from today all the way until Wednesday, well above average conditions, specifically up in Minnesota. Now, as we extend all the way into the next coming days, we're going to continue, or Montana, excuse me, as we extend into the next couple days, we're going to watch that area of high pressure kind of shift over into Minnesota, where above normal conditions will continue to be the trend. So let's drop that behind me and let's look below. As we head into the next couple days, we'll continue to watch well above average temperatures stick around in areas like Billings, already at 96 today. Right around the corner, we're expected to hit 105 by Wednesday, as that area of high pressure really stretches over the north and all throughout the southwest too. We're going to have more on this crazy heat coming up in just a bit, as well as some flooding happening too. Breed?
Need some ice cubes,
We
right,
do
Jess?
need some ice
Thank
cubes.
you so much. Hey, coast to coast and worldwide, CBS 24/7 getting reaction from around the globe on President Joe Biden bowing out in his race to become president for another term. We've got that when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will speak to Congress this week to bolster Israel's relationship with U.S. lawmakers. In fact, we just got this video as Netanyahu flew out of Israel for Washington. Let's roll that.
I plan to see President Biden, whom I've known for over 40 years. This will be an opportunity to thank him for the things he did for Israel in the war and during his long and distinguished career in public service as senator, as vice president, and as president.
More news now from that area from CBS News' Deborah Pata.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu leaves behind a country where many Israelis are furious that he is visiting the U.S. without a deal to release the more than 100 hostages still in Gaza. Just today, the Israeli Defense Force announced the names of 2 more hostages who are believed to be dead, Yegev Buchstab and well-known historian Alex Danzig. Their bodies remain in Gaza. Over the weekend, tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets in both Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, angrily saying Netanyahu's Washington visit was a waste of time and that he should stay home and concentrate on securing a ceasefire agreement. In Gaza, the IDF has ordered the evacuation of displaced Palestinians from parts of Khan Yunis, where there has been fierce bombardment today. The evacuation orders include a section of the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone. Thousands of Palestinians with children were seen leaving with their meager possessions. Many have already fled the fighting multiple times. Netanyahu still plans on meeting President Biden in the U.S., saying it will be an opportunity to thank him for all he's done for Israel, although it's unclear when exactly that meeting will take place. But his critics here say his least important meeting will be the one with Biden, and that what he really wants to do is speak face-to-face with Donald Trump, whom he believes could be the next president. Reed?
All right, thank you so much. Get a look at this. We are getting video off of our feeds, this time from northwest China, where heavy storms and flooding caused this bridge to partially collapse there into a raging river. Chinese state media says at least 12 people are dead and many more missing, with investigators looking for more than a dozen cars there in the water. Earlier last week, heavy rains in China killed 5 in one city and left 8 missing in another city. Just shows you how vulnerable we are to floods, whether it's in China or here in the United States, Jess.
Absolutely. And as we take a look at this imagery coming out of New Mexico, this is in a small village just south of Albuquerque called Ruidoso, which is a village well known by outdoor enthusiasts. They are dealing with the aftermath of some major fires that have burnt throughout their communities, and now flash flooding warnings are in effect widespread throughout these communities. This video is coming out of this area just throughout the weekend, and they're expected to see more flash floods as we head into the next coming days. Here's the reason why. Here's what's going on. As we head into the next couple days, we are still dealing with some pop-up storms, specifically over New Mexico, stretching all the way into Arizona too. And that's the reason why the National Weather Service has issued flash flood watches. That's that green color right there, pretty much highlighting the whole state. Now, the National Guard has been out there helping out, getting people out of those wildfire conditions that are now flash flood conditions. And as we take a look right behind me, I want to show you the satellite imagery specifically over New Mexico, where throughout the early morning hours we've started to see some showers dry up. However, as we take a look at Futurecast, which is a very important tool on a day like today, we watch these thunderstorms continue to develop at times, and that can cause a lot of issues, whether it be flash flooding and or more wildfires to come. So it is monsoon season right down there right now, Reed, and there's a lot of things that are changing right now. We'll keep you updated.
After fire season, I'm always concerned about flood season because it gets more dangerous and deadly because there's nothing to really hold that ground in place.
Exactly.
Jess, thank you so much for that. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue looking at what's going on in Washington, D.C. Members of Congress grilling the highest-ranking official in the Secret Service. You're watching CBS News 24/7. We're back after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I've got here in my hand some breaking political news right now. This is a letter from former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, just released a statement. No surprise here, she's endorsing Kamala Harris for president. Just some of what she had to say, quote, "Today it is with immense pride and limitless optimism for our country's future that I endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for president of the United States." Speaker Emerita Pelosi also says, "My enthusiastic support for Kamala Harris for president is official, personal, and political." Keep in mind, they have deep ties in the state of California. And we have that going on right now in our right hand. And in our left hand, we have an eye that is focused on the hometown of the person who would like to be vice president of the United States. You're looking live at Middletown, Ohio, and the makings of a rally for J.D. Vance. This is the hometown of Vance, the town that he wrote about in his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. As soon as he takes to the stage for that rally, and keep in mind, this is his first large stage and large microphone, you could say megaphone, since the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee last week, we will be bringing it to you. Top of mind, we want to know what he has to say about the fact that he and Donald Trump will likely now have a new person to face off with, not only in the presidential election, but also in those vice presidential debates that are coming up very soon. So this, of course, follows President Biden's monumental decision over the weekend to no longer seek re-election. That's why Nancy Pelosi released this statement. You know, after weeks of mounting pressure to drop out of the race, he finally has. The president is expected to address the nation later this week. Meantime, Vice President Kamala Harris made her first appearance today since entering the race for the Democratic presidential nomination, where she praised Joe Biden.
His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big heart, and his love, deep love of our country. And I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
Okay, CBS News correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns following the latest developments. I want to get your take, first of all, Caitlin, about Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi and what she just had to say.
Yeah, and this is significant. We've been waiting to see what she had to say in terms of an endorsement for Kamala Harris, because we've seen a wave of lawmakers, public officials of various ranks come out and endorse Harris. But we are just now hearing from Nancy Pelosi. That's significant because, as we know, she's no longer Speaker, but essentially is a chief leader in her caucus and had been kind of behind this pressure campaign, so to speak, of getting Biden to leave this race. She's, obviously knows her caucus well, knows polling well. And so this is significant, putting her backing behind Harris. We're seeing today the party really coalesce behind Harris. Not only Nancy Pelosi, but, would-be rivals like Governor Gavin Newsom, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Governor J.B. Pritzker, and others come behind Harris. So it's essentially the Democratic Party apparatus, from the kind of infrastructure to the campaign to public officials, saying that Harris is going to be the nominee.
With those endorsements also come money from the donors to the various politicians who are now speaking out and endorsing. Talk to me about what you know about the war chest that continues to get bigger and bigger. In fact, after President Biden pulled out of the race, that war chest got huge by tens of millions.
And that's hugely significant because before all of this, Donald Trump had been extremely successful in raising money and actually was set to outpace Biden. And, earlier this year, Biden was outraising Donald Trump. So the idea that they are now kind of matched here was significant, and something that had been startling donors, lawmakers, Democratic Party officials, down the line, was this idea of, if Biden stays in, does fundraising dry up, especially when you have a intense grassroots donor base for Donald Trump? So Democrats are believing and seeing, really, that Biden dropping out and Harris all but becoming the pick to be the nominee is going to lead to an influx of cash, and that's something that they desperately need right now.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much. We appreciate your live report. Fresh from the state of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, now in Washington, D.C. You've kept the road hot. Thank you so much. Hey, our video feeds and monitors take us to Capitol Hill for congressional members, and they are in real time grilling Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle after a would-be assassin's bullet grazed the ear of the former President Donald Trump during that Pennsylvania rally. And we should also mention took the life of one person and sent two to the hospital, still recovering. Let's not forget about those citizens who took bullets. The headline here for this hearing is that Director Cheadle admits failure. She says it won't happen again, but committee members are pressing hard for more details about how this attempt ever got as far as it did. Listen in.
How many Secret Service agents were assigned to President Trump on the day of the rally?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there, but we feel that there was a sufficient number of agents assigned.
There are reports that several agents assigned to the rally on July 13th were temporary agents not normally assigned to President Trump. Is that accurate?
What I can tell you is that the agents that were assigned to former President Trump are Secret Service agents that provide close protection to him, and that was what was actual on that day.
I mean, before July 13th, had the Trump detail requested additional resources?
What I can tell you is that for the event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given.
So can you answer this question, which I think is on the mind of most Americans thinking about this? How can a 20-year-old with his father's AR-15 assault weapon climb onto a roof with a direct 150-yard line of sight to the speaker's podium without the Secret Service or local police stopping him?
So again, sir, I will say we are 9 days out from this event, and I would like to know those answers as well, which is why we are going through these investigations to be able to determine that fully.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
What I can tell you, again, I don't know the specifics, is that there are times when we can fill a request. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a Secret Service asset or resource. We can fill that request with locally available assets.
You spoke to anyone at the White House since July 13th?
Yes, I have.
Who'd you talk to?
I have briefed the President and the Vice President.
Talked to the First Lady?
No, I have not.
Talked to the White House staff? Anyone in the White House communications?
No, I have not.
Have you talked to the counter sniper who took the shot that took out the bad guy?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us about that conversation?
I would not want to reveal conversations that I've had with my employees.
But that's exactly the kind of information the American people want to know. American people who pay your salary.
All right. As our chief congressional correspondent, Scott MacFarlane, who is in that room listening to that, and you will see him tonight on many platforms of CBS, as he mentioned, that tough line of questioning is not just Republicans. It is Democrats. as well. And also, keep in mind, while what you are seeing on the screen right now is playing out in Washington, D.C., in Pennsylvania, where the fatal bullet flew that hit one citizen, hit two other citizens, and also hit a former president of the United States in the ear, right there, we saw lawmakers from several states go and look at that. In fact, one from the state of Florida said, I climbed up on the very roof where the shooter was. I'm 70 years old. It's easy to get up there, and there's no excuse for why that shouldn't have been covered as well. They are calling for Cheadle's resignation as well. You can bet this story will continue to get bigger and bigger as the day and the week goes on. Let's take you right now and talk about another theme in our country, and that is heat. This is video off of our monitors right now, a glimpse of heat bearing down on Japanese citizens who are feeling 100-plus degree temperatures. The government there issuing heat stroke warnings for 39 of that nation's 47 prefectures today. Temperatures continue to climb there, and it really is evidence, Jess, that heat is a problem not only internationally, but right here in the United States.
That is so true. I mean, for us here in the States, we're taking a look at areas like California, stretching all the way over into Montana, whereas we head out the door today, many of us are facing extreme heat. You could see that in this orange-yellow color, as well as the pink color right behind me. That's the National Weather Service saying we are advising you that there's heat warnings in effect in all these communities, and we're specifically keeping a close eye on areas all the way over into Montana, where right now we are battling some of the hottest temperatures on record. I mean, heading into the next couple days, this heat advisory will continue to build. We're going to continue to keep a close eye on this because right now Billings is sitting at 96 degrees. By Wednesday, in the middle of this heat wave, we're expected to hit around 105. Glacier National Park today sitting at 100 degrees. So let's take a look right behind me and let's dive into this a little bit more on the map. California, we're also included on this too. All throughout that Central Valley, daytime highs are sitting well above average this afternoon in the triple digits. We turn the page from Monday all the way into Wednesday as this heat wave starts to wrap up. Well, keeping a close eye on areas like Billings, Montana, as well as the rest of the state. That's the center of the system that's bringing in all this heat, and we're continuing to keep a close eye on that throughout the next 6 to 10 days. As that system starts to move just a little bit closer to Minnesota. Well above average temperatures still expected in the middle portions of our states. California and just along that coastline close to Oregon, they'll start to catch a break there, and we will keep you updated on that here in the Weather Center as we head into the following days. But heat is the big story for us right now, as well as those wildfires.
I refuse to wear a tie in this heat.
I know.
All right, Jess, thank you so much. You know, we talk to people with big names and big titles all the time, but CBS News 24/7 is also in your communities. When we come back, we're going to talk to voters in your neighborhoods reacting to the word of Joe Biden dropping out of the race for president. We'll continue watching the monitors until we see you in just a few minutes.
For analysis.
Our video monitor is taking us inside that congressional hearing, grilling Kimberly Cheadle, the Secret Service director. How often is it that you see Lauren Boebert of Colorado and Jamie Raskin, her peer lawmaker, who oftentimes go head-to-head and disagree? How often is it that you see them asking questions that sound very similar? This is Lauren Boebert right now asking Kimberly Cheadle questions about what happened and what did not happen on the day that Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt and 3 citizens were shot, one of them fatally. We'll continue watching what goes on there as lawmakers continue grilling the Secret Service director, and also many of them mounting in a chorus that she stepped down from her job. Well, let's talk about voters. Voters from coast to coast, we know you woke up with the possibility that Vice President Kamala Harris could become her party's presumptive nominee after President Joe Biden left the race over the weekend. From Harris's hometown of Oakland, California, here's what a lot of you had to say. Listen.
I think she would make a great president. I know she's been busy these last 4 years making the deciding vote in the Senate, and I feel like people don't know enough about her and need to learn more about her.
We'll see how Kamala begins to sway voters, and especially young voters. I'm really excited for her to make some connections there.
Well, while most reaction appears to be on the hopeful side there in Oakland, California, there are others who see Biden's exit as disappointing. Christiana Fahn has reaction from the other side of the country in New York.
While some people believe it was about time for President Biden to step out, others thought he brought much needed stability to this country, and they were quite disappointed with the fact that leaders from his own political party forced him out. We spoke to Americans from across the country, and many of them expressed a lot of uncertainty and concern not knowing who the Democratic nominee is going to be for the presidency with just months to go before the presidential election. Many Democratic voters say they were surprised by the president's decision, but at the same time they understood given the concerns about his age and also his competency after that lackluster debate performance last month against former President Donald Trump. We also spoke with a number of Trump supporters. They see Biden's exit as a sort of relief. They believe that no Democratic candidates will be able to muster up enough support or have a strong enough campaign to defeat the Republicans by November's election. I'm Christina Fan reporting for CBS News, New York.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's jump the map and look through our monitors at this video coming to us. This is Riverside County, California, and somebody's house on fire. What a tragedy there. Fire crews working now to contain 2 wildfires. The Howardin fire taking out a few residences. As you can see, this is one that is going up in smoke. Dramatic pictures on your screen. That fire is now more than 400 acres. Evacuations ordered for nearby residents in that area. Mother Nature not playing games. This summer has been all about fires and now floods too, Jess.
Exactly. Now those wildfires leave the burn scars. The burn scars are now the big concern when it comes to flash flooding. And that is exactly what's happening right now as we head all the way over into New Mexico. See all that green on the map near New Mexico? That is a flood watch issued by the National Weather Service. And as we head into the coming days, we are still concerned with more pop-up storms expected to impact those communities. Now the National Guard is out there helping the communities. And to add to that, 13 of the 19 flash flood emergencies have happened just in Ruidoso, a community just south of Albuquerque, and we continue to keep a close eye on those communities heading into the coming days because of this. We're not done with rain just yet in New Mexico. It's monsoon season. We're in the middle of it right now, and after those wildfires swept throughout that state, we are now left with major burn scars and, of course, a lot of flooding issues. So let's actually zoom in just a little bit on our satellite and radar. We had some showers pass through in the overnight hours. It's starting to clear up right now, but as we head into the afternoon hours, that's when we're expected to see more pop-up storms. You can see that on Futurecast. These little isolated storms become a major threat when it comes to potential lightning activity in these local communities, which could spark the next wildfire, and that starts the trend again. So we are keeping a close eye on New Mexico heading into the coming days. Like I said, throughout the afternoon and evening hours tonight, more pop-up storms are expected to sweep throughout those communities, and we will keep you updated here in the Weather Center regarding all of that active weather in New Mexico. Reed?
All right, thanks. You know, we often worry about our families and friends during intense heat waves, but there are other creatures out there that are also at risk. Of course, we're talking about zoo animals. Our video feeds take us to the Palm Beach Zoo right now, and a conservation society in the state of thinking outside of the box to keep these animals cool. Black bears get giant piles of ice. Giant tortoises, well, they get a cool water shower. And tigers, well, you see that they get a very specific order from their chef.
When they're really warm, what we'll do is we'll make special treats for them. So we'll take a bone and freeze it in a block of ice, and we'll also freeze goat milk. They love drinking goat milk, and putting it into a frozen block is nice and refreshing for them.
Nice and refreshing. All right, well, zookeepers say figuring out these cooling methods requires some trial and some error. They have to really meet the palate of these big-toothed animals. But it's necessary, they say, as temperatures in South Florida this month are in the upper 90s, along with some record high humidity. That's it for us at CBS News 24/7. I'm Reed Cowan. We thank you for watching. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on The Stream.